I guess you're talking. What the heck?
What?
Okay, let's see.
Last night in Washington, something horrific happened. A brutal terrorist shot in cold blood a young, beautiful couple, Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Milgram. Yaron had just bought an engagement ring for Sarah. He was planning to give it to her in Jerusalem next week. They were planning to start a new and happy life together. Well, that tragically did not happen. Yaron and Sarah weren't the victims of a random crime. The terrorist who cruelly gunned them down did so for one reason and one reason alone. He wanted to kill Jews. And as he was taken away, he chanted, "Free Palestine." This is exactly the same chant we heard on October 7th. On that day, thousands of terrorists stormed into Israel from Gaza. They beheaded men, they raped women, they burned babies alive. They butchered 1,200 innocent people and took 251 innocent people hostage to the dungeons of Gaza. A short time afterwards,
Hold up, let me fix the thing here.
Fix what?
If I may, kind of quiet.
last night in Washington,
Okay, where was this? 110. All right, here.
he visited Israel. And after he saw the horrors, he said to me, "These Hamas babies alive, they butchered 1,200 innocent people and took 251 innocent people hostage to the dungeons of Gaza." A short time afterwards, Chancellor Scholz of Germany visited Israel. And after he saw the horrors, he said to me, "These Hamas terrorists are exactly like the Nazis." He was right. And if they could get away with it, these Hamas terrorists would have slaughtered every last Jew on earth. For these neo-Nazis, Free Palestine is just today's version of Heil Hitler. They don't want a Palestinian state.
This is not a lie. This is not some propaganda. This is pure fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I made that very same point during the debate that I had with Andrew Wilson recently. When he's saying that if Hamas had the opportunity and the chance, they would kill every single Jew on the face of the earth, he's completely correct. This is what we heard directly from Hamas over and over again. That was precisely their goal. I played the videos here 1,000,000 times by now. We looked at the sources 1,000,000 times by now. Hamas has had it in their charter and on their stages, in their declarations forever, that their aim was to eradicate the Jews, and it was to eradicate, to word for word, cleanse Palestine of the filth of the Jews, and then to establish the caliphate. That's literally their entire goal. Those were their words. So those who, in solidarity with Hamas, go out and do vile crimes like the bastard did last night, are part of that same movement. They're basically Nazis. Should be treated as such as well.
Of Heil Hitler. They don't want a Palestinian state. They want to destroy the Jewish state. They want to annihilate the Jewish people who've been in the land of Israel for 3,500 years. I could never understand how this simple truth evades the leaders of France, Britain, Canada, and others. They're now proposing to establish a Palestinian state and reward these murderers with the ultimate prize. Well, for 18 years, we had a de facto Palestinian state. It's called Gaza. And what did we get? Peace? No. We got the most savage slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. You won't be surprised to learn that Hamas thanked President Macron and Prime Minister Starmer and Carney for demanding that Israel end its war in Gaza immediately. Hamas was right to thank them, because by issuing their demand, replete with a threat of sanctions against Israel, not Hamas, these three leaders effectively said they want Hamas to remain in power. They want Israel to stand down and accept that Hamas's army of mass murderers will survive,
Hamas
rebuild.
welcomes concrete actions against Israel.
Here's the thing. Hamas welcomes concrete actions against Israel. Hamas lauded the United Kingdom, France, and Canada for threatening concrete actions against Israel if the IDF's military escalation in Gaza continues. The Iran-backed terrorist group said that it welcomed the trio's joint statement, which it described as an important step towards restoring respect for the principles of international law. The terrorist group that is currently holding civilians as hostages is talking about international law here and thanking these Western nations, while simultaneously denouncing Israel as a rogue entity. So, the British, French, and Canadian governments condemned Israel's renewed offensive in the Gaza Strip, calling on the Jewish state to lift restrictions on humanitarian aid into Gaza. Israel introduced these restrictions in March after Hamas again refused to release the hostages it still holds captive. The May 19 statement also demanded an end to settlement constructions in the West Bank, emphasizing that the three states would not hesitate to take further action, including targeted sanctions. So here is what he's just saying. He's not making this up. The UK, France, and Canada made joint statements, and you can actually find the joint statement very simply by googling it, right here on the government website of the UK. Hamas actually came out thanking the UK, France, and Canada for this joint statement that they made. Imagine an actual terrorist organization that for 30 years preached that their aim is to eradicate the Jews and to establish a caliphate. You could say, in a way, they are, at least in words, worse than ISIS. This terrorist organization actually thanks France and the UK and Canada. That speaks volumes. It says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a general rule. If a terrorist organization is posting its groveling thanks to you, it's not time to rejoice. Time to be figuring out what you did wrong.
It's kind of funny because we kind of we are at a time right now where being against Israel is the very, very popular thing to do, and it's not a very popular thing to support Israel in their current struggle. But then you look at who your opponents are and who is actually against Israel, and you see Iran, you see the terrorist organizations, you see Hamas, you see the worst states out there. And then you see these idiotic Western nations that can't take care of their own people bending over and joining in on that trend.
And repeat the October 7th massacre again and again and again, because that's what Hamas is vowed to do. I say to President Macron, Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Starmer, when mass murderers, rapists, baby killers, and kidnappers thank you, you're on the wrong side of justice. You're on the wrong side of humanity. And you're on the wrong side of history. Now, these leaders may think that they're advancing peace. They're not. They're emboldening Hamas to continue fighting forever. And they give them hope to establish a second Palestinian state, from which Hamas will again seek to destroy the Jewish state. And mind you, it's not going to be a state free of Hamas. When you establish a Palestinian state, we've seen it. The radicals take over. Iran sends them in and they take over. So don't give us this talk. It'll be a peaceful Palestinian state. It won't be. But the hypocrisy doesn't stop there. These and other leaders have bought into Hamas's propaganda that says Israel is starving Palestinian children. And not only is Hamas putting out this lie, a few days ago, a top UN official said that 14,000 Palestinian babies would die in 48 hours. You see, many international institutions are complicit in spreading this lie. The press repeats it, the mob believed it, and a young couple is then brutally gunned down in Washington. So here are the facts. Since
I wanted to jump in on this, but I didn't. I just watched it happening. But this actually went around. Imagine making such an absolutely ridiculous statement, and then just quietly taking it back without even saying anything about it. What kind of a clown world? What kind of a clown show is this? The United Nations guy comes out and says, under the current circumstances, if Israel is not stopped, about 14,000 babies will die in Gaza in the next 48 hours because they don't have any food left.
Isn't that like beyond stupid? Like, I mean, like insanely idiotic when you say 48 hours. If he'd said 14,000 will be dead in 8 months or something like that, you got some time for your theory to spread around, for your claim to spread around and do whatever you want. When you say 48 hours, it's just, really? We're going to see 14,000 bodies, baby bodies, within 48 hours. It's like, it reminds me of like, who was it? Was it AOC who was saying that humanity would be destroyed within 5 years if they don't do the Green New Deal or something? She said it was something like that, where it was just a few years away, and it it was completely idiotic. But
Yeah.
anyway, this sort of thing. Yeah, guys, if you want to make something up, at least give yourself a little bit more time than 48 hours.
I don't even understand how. I mean, I don't even understand the education level or the logic that the person who makes this statement, who is in charge of humanitarian affairs in the United Nations. I don't understand how dumb you have to be to actually make such a statement in a serious fashion, right? Oh, if the humanitarian if the humanitarian situation is not fixed, within the next 48 hours, 14,000 Gazan babies will. Are you freaking serious, man? That doesn't make any sense. That really doesn't make any sense. How do you even get to this conclusion? So this statement was put out, and then it was quietly retracted by the United Nations. It was widely reported everywhere. UN says 14,000 babies could die in Gaza in next 48 hours under Israeli aid blockade. And then the statement was quietly retracted. But how irresponsible. This is supposed to be the group that is in charge of human rights, that is supposed to be watching human rights and fixing, relations between countries and all that. That is putting out such a ridiculously dangerous, horrible statement. I mean, this probably contributed to the killing. You could argue that happened yesterday.
October 7th, Israel has sent 92,000 aid trucks into Gaza. That's right, 92,000 aid trucks. That includes 1.8 million tons of aid. 1.8 million tons of aid. More than enough food to feed everyone in Gaza. Yet as we had let the aid come in, Hamas stole it. They took a huge chunk for themselves. The rest they sold at exorbitant prices to the Palestinian population. And then they used the money they stole to recruit new terrorists to continue their war against Israel. Our goal from the start was to get food to Palestinian civilians, not to Palestinian terrorists.
We have, by the way, seen many videos where Palestinians, where Gazans have said the very same thing again and again, but every single time it's ignored. You have Gazans walking around and saying, curse Hamas, they have taken all the food, they're doing this and this to us. But all the free Palestine people are ignoring it. And I have to say, Israel is really bad at the whole, propaganda and PR thing, as it seems. I don't really understand.
It is weird. I mean, it's extremely weird because we've been saying it for a while. And then we were over there in like their media center where they're figuring out what they're going to address and so on. We're thinking this you're missing the most important stuff as far as the stuff that's going on social media and Twitter and stuff like that. And they seemed pretty darn clueless of how bad some of this stuff is getting and how they should be responding. And yet, simultaneously with that, with us thinking, well, they're good at lots of stuff, but this stuff they're really, really terrible at. Somehow, their opponents think they're these masterminds that are controlling all the media and social media and everything else. It's just really weird.
It's pretty weird.
So we consulted with our American allies. What do we do to prevent Hamas from looting the aid? Well, together we devised a mechanism to achieve this goal. American companies will distribute the food directly to Palestinian families. They'll do so in safe zone secured by our military. And this will allow us to complete our goal of destroying Hamas while enabling aid to reach the civilian population.
Hey, pause that.
Yes.
You catch that? Because that was brilliant. That was brilliant, everyone. So what's the problem? Well, you do have people, you do have kids and civilians and so on. And tons of them support the terrorists and so on. But there are those who don't. We've seen them because we've seen them protest and we've seen them get killed. And so how many more are there out there who just can't speak out because they don't want to be tortured and killed and so on? So you want to get aid to people. What are all these nations? Just send the aid in. Okay, what happens if you just send the aid in? What happens if you just send tons of trucks loaded with food and supplies in there? What happens? Hamas takes it instantly. And then they keep it and then they sell it at massive price. It's not being handed to civilians. It's being sold to people at exorbitant prices, as Netanyahu said there. So what happens? What's actually happening with this aid trucks? With these aid trucks? You're making more Hamas billionaires. And then they use the money both for themselves and to recruit new terrorists. So obviously you want to stop this. If we're just sending piles of money in there and we're just sending piles of money and piles of aid, but the aid is taken by the same group. And then this is just extending the process. What do you do about this? Well, he said, you're going to have people in there that are distributing the aid directly to the civilians. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, because it's going to be in areas where the Israeli military is protecting the civilians so that the civilians can come and get the aid and not be controlled by Hamas. Okay, that's a solution, but that's what they're being condemned for right now. Like, how dare you circumvent Hamas in this process? We want the aid to go directly to Hamas. So, guys, just to be clear on this, if 14,000 babies were on the brink of dying of starvation, if you don't just allow these endless aid trucks in right now, if that were true, letting all those aid trucks in would not make any of those babies not starve, because the aid trucks would just be taken over by Hamas. So what do you need? You need a system. That's what he's saying, and he's bad for it for some reason. Apparently anything that does not turn Hamas officials into make more billionaires out of these guys is unacceptable. And that's just insane, because you got Western leaders supporting this nonsense.
The very funny thing about all of this is that over 85% of the population in Gaza are currently living in what's called safe zones, from where they make videos, live regular lives, average lives. Occasionally, in parts of those safe zones, something happens. An airstrike is conducted. Something blows up. Somebody shoots something. But for most of it, the vast majority of the population is completely and entirely safe. And they were put in those safe zones by Israel. There was given to them proper warning until they could go there and could stay there. Most people, the average Gazan person, the average Gazan civilian right now, if they heeded all the warnings and did not stay back, live in safe zones, and most likely nothing will happen to them. There will be no danger at all. They will live through this and get out of this alive. Things are really, really rough right now. But pay attention to the detail here. 85% of the population is placed into safe zones, evacuated and placed into safe zones by Israel themselves. Didn't we hear from the very beginning that Israel is doing this indiscriminate bombing and indiscriminate killing? They put the vast majority of the population into safe zones to protect them from everything that is going on. They're not being killed. They're not being brutally violated. None of that is going on.
Construction of the first distribution zones in the coming days. Ultimately, we intend to have large safe zones in the south of Gaza, and the Palestinian population will move there for their own safety while we conduct combat in other zones and receive humanitarian aid there without Hamas interference. In the meantime, we authorized letting trucks enter Gaza to provide for immediate needs. Yesterday, I think more than 100 trucks went in. More will come in today. I tell you this, no army in the world has ever gone to such lengths to provide aid to the civilian population in the midst of intense combat. And Hamas, of course, opposes this. It shoots Palestinian civilians who want to leave for safe zones, and it shoots Palestinian civilians who want to prevent Hamas terrorists from looting the aid trucks intended for them. As for the hostages, we'll do every effort to secure them. I'm ready for
Hey, you got a
temporary
massive
ceasefire
echo going, man.
to get more.
What is it?
Oh, your microphone is picking up the sound from your headphones when you're not talking, and it's auto adjusting and getting really loud.
More out, but we demand, and you should demand, that all of our hostages be released and released immediately. And so should every civilized country demand this.
Mhm.
We're in an intense seven-front war that was launched against us by Iran and its proxies. Sometimes in war, accidents happen. One such incident happened the other day in Jenin, and thankfully no one was hurt. Our military has expressed its regret over the event because we don't target civilians or diplomats. We target terrorists. Exactly the opposite of Hamas. They target civilians, ours, and they hide behind civilians, theirs. They use them as human shields. That's a double war crime. But I don't hear that coming from any one of those countries that could.
I can hear some of these people say, "Oh, so they don't target civilians? Oh, yeah. So why have people been killed? Why have civilians been killed in Gaza?" Well, once again, the comparison here is very simple. When the Palestinian activists had the chance, what did they do? They indiscriminately killed anybody they could, foremost civilians. What does the Israeli side do? Do they target and indiscriminately kill all the civilians? Anybody? No, they don't. They simply do not. We have civilian casualties that happen in every single war. That's what we have. But the vast majority of targeting, the vast majority of strikes are done with military targets. That's it. You can simply not prove that Israel is actually deliberately targeting civilians or anything like that. And if there are occasions where civilians are unnecessarily hurt or targeted or something like that by any rogue people, they usually deal with disciplinary action from the Israeli army itself. Not so with Hamas. They can do whatever they want.
Criticize Israel. For those who say that Israel stands alone, I say we're not alone. Justice stands with us. The truth stands with us. History stands with us. And so do countless people around the world who can tell the difference between right and wrong, between good and evil. I want to thank all of them. And I especially want to thank President Trump and the American people for their forthright stand with Israel and with the Jewish people. Together we stand, together we'll triumph, and we'll see the victory of civilization over barbarism.
It was not too bad. Not the worst speech I've heard.
That was pretty good. Yeah, so it looks like they're what he's describing there. You put and what you were describing as well. That you get people, as many people as you can, into safe zones while you carry out your hunt for terrorists and so on. That's exactly what you need to do. I mean, apart from just deporting the entire population or something like that, if you want to deal with the terrorists without killing everybody, what do? You have to start dividing up places and making safe zones and stuff like that, and going and fighting in different areas. It's exactly what they're doing. You do have this problem of all the aid that people send in gets taken over by Hamas and used to enrich themselves and to recruit more terrorists. What do you do about that? They're dealing with that. So I don't know. Seems like I can't think of something where they should be doing things significantly differently.